Welcome to another segment of Washington in Focus. I'm your host, Tim Clouser, with Center Square's investigative reporter, TJ Martinell, here to talk about, as Representative Peter Yabarno would put it, the majority party in Washington state, the Democrats, draining a public pension for firefighters and police officers. TJ, it's $4.5 billion. You wrote about it. What the heck is going on here? And is Yabarno right in what he's saying?
I mean, it's what's going on. That's the question. I think is why they feel the need to basically abolish a pension plan and then reestablish it, but divert a bunch of funds. I think something really important for people to understand is when they say a pension plan is either fully funded or overfunded, they're saying that's based on projections, that's actuarial assumptions. That's not an actual lump sum of money. So it's showing that it's projected to have so much money in order to meet its pension obligations. But what's going on is they're dipping into this plan to pay for stuff in the operating budget, but also to shift money into the Climate Commitment Act accounts, which they themselves took money out of for something else. So it's like, why are they taking money out of an account and then putting money from another account, from a pension plan no less, where they have a constitutional and legal obligation to the pensioners, not to anybody else. And there's some who are arguing that it's illegal because that you're not allowed to use pension money for that. The state legislature what it could do is just not put money into the system. Be like, okay, it's overfunded, let's just not put money. And that's kind of what's interesting is they're taking money out of the system while putting money into other pension plans. So I think that if I was a person who was collecting a pension right now, I would want my plan to be underfunded because it seems like it's safer than the one that's overfunded. But that's pretty much what's going on. And another thing that's important to note is that it's called the LEOFF 1. It's Law Enforcement Officers and Firefighters 1. It was a pension plan that was it consolidated a bunch of municipal plans back in 1969, and then they closed the system in 1977. So the last person to enroll in this pension plan was in 1977, which is when Elvis Presley died. So I'm pretty sure there's like the number of people who are still working who are under this pension plan probably could fit, I could count them on one hand. So what that means is they're dipping into a plan where almost all the members are currently collecting pension benefits.
So it's solvent for now, been solvent for years. Not a ton of people from what you're saying that are on the program, but doesn't it set a kind of a dangerous precedent for other pension funds? I mean, the state has faced back-to-back multi-billion-dollar deficits. I mean, this was part of their plan to balance the last one, but instead they turned to a historic tax hike to get them through that. Now they're kind of turning to this. What does this mean for future budget deficits and other state pensions?
I mean, it really, like I said, if I was collecting a pension from the Washington state pension system, I would be concerned and I would want my plan to be underfunded. I would want there to be, at this point, it's almost like I want there to be not enough money because at the very least, you know that your plan's not going to get rated. And if it's not able to provide the benefits that they've promised, then at least you know it's because it's for other reasons, but it's not because the legislature dipped into it. The other problem is that the actuarial assumptions are based off of an assumed rate of growth. So this means how much is the investments by the state investment board going to return, because that's where the funds that the state and the employee contribute to the plan, all that money is put into investments and then they withdraw from the investments to pay pensioners. They assume a very high 7.25% annual return on investments, which is more than I think any other state pension system. And so what that does is it allows them to have a more optimistic and healthier look than if they said, hey, what if it's only 5%? Now you've got an unfunded liability potentially. So if there's any kind of recession, not only is the state going to have the state legislature, which already has a budget deficit despite record revenue levels currently, not only are going to have an even bigger budget, operating budget shortfall, they're going to have a state pension system that could be severely underfunded and not being able to meet its financial obligations. And so this is really raising the stakes and amping up the risk factor in their financial decision making.
I mean, what would happen in that situation? Say a public pension program is underfunded. Does the state say, "Hey, I know you've been retired for decades. It's time to come back to work," or do they turn to the other taxpayers and say,
That
"Look, you got a gap to fill"?
I think that that's a good question to ask them. Is and I don't believe anyone from the select committee on pension policy was behind this bill. I think it passed. It obviously passed the House. I don't think that that was a decision by the pension policy committee. So, and the state actuary's office doesn't weigh in on these things, so they're not going to comment on a bill. But this is really. I talked to the advocacy group for LEOFF one, and they're planning legal action if this bill passes. So it's possible. This is what the interesting things is. They are making they are using this to cover operating budget expenses. What happens when this bill gets tossed out in court? Now you've got $4.5 billion that you don't have anymore. I mean, that's what's so crazy. Like $4.5 billion that you're assuming you're going to get that you may not get, and you know it's going to get legally challenged in court. That's even if their budget is perfectly fine right now, that's a $4.5 billion budget deficit you got to fill next session.
I know that the state's been wrestling with these budget challenges the last few years, but at the same time, it's expanding the CCA and what it uses that money for, or the projects that it's using that money for. Why take this money that's set up for people, for retired firefighters and police officers? Why take that money and put it behind the CCA, these climate projects? Why is that such a priority right now for the state?
I mean, there's that is a good question to ask them. Is why are they shifting money around? Like what exactly, what kind of fiscal crisis are we actually looking at? Like how bad is the financial status of Washington State right now, where they're doing this? And this is not what. And again, we cannot repeat this enough. This is going on at a time of record revenue level. So they're getting record revenue. They still have a budget shortfall. They're still calling for new taxes. And on top of that, they're rating a pension plan to the tune of $4.5 billion. So what's going on? It just raises so many questions as to what conversations are going on behind closed doors. And the totality of it is that there's something serious going on. So I know that there's been efforts to try to raid the pension plan in the past, but like one lawmaker said, it was considered so absurd. It was talked about, but nobody ever seriously considered it. Now you've got a chamber that passed it, and it's moving in through. Who knows what happens in the Senate? But this is kind of it's a significant policy shift because it leaves other pension plans subject to in danger of being raided. And this is not the only type of account that they've raided. They've raided other accounts to the tune of billions of dollars as well to plug operating budget expenses. So it's just a lot of shifting around of funds. And for all we know, it could be just shifting chairs around on the Titanic. It's possibly what could be going on.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what comes to mind for me. It's interesting to see how the majority party resorts to budget or balancing these budget deficits. And that, last year they had a 12 to $16 billion. That's what the numbers that were thrown around a lot, the budget deficit. They raised taxes by $12 billion after accounting for authorized taxes to city and counties. Now they're facing another multi-billion-dollar deficit. Sure, that they're making minor cuts, more so readjusting their priorities, but at the same time, they're going after measures like this. They're going after measures like an income tax that has been rejected by the voters 10 times on the ballot. Pushing it through as an emergency so it doesn't have to go through a voter referendum before taking effect. I mean, it seems like in moments like this, you would pull back the strings and say, hey, maybe let's deal with maybe some potential service level cuts. Let's readjust here and provide a new basis for going forward. But instead, they're just reaching for more and more revenues, and spending is just increasing.
Yeah. It's again, if we have a recession, it's going to be a very interesting situation in the legislature because it's going to get to the point where, are they going to raise more taxes? Are they going to, is that going to be used to justify taking a millionaire's tax and expanding it to all Washington state residents? And, what are going to be the fallout from the income tax if they pass it, where businesses leave the state and then they've got lower, just, there's so many things that are going on, and it's serious. It's something that people, even if you don't collect a pension from the state, it's something that everyone should be keeping an eye on, because it's a sign that potentially the state is in serious financial straits that we are not fully aware of, because there's a lot of shifting going around where that money is coming from, but also where it's going.